thank you very much, Acting President Scott. I appreciate this. It's my privilege today to introduce the 2015 inductee into the College Football Hall of Fame. Well, one of the few active coaches ever inducted while he was still coaching. So it's my privilege to introduce Coach Snyder today. I want to give you a little history lesson to begin with, if you don't mind. When you introduce someone as well known as Coach Snyder, who needs no introduction, it's a little struggle to think, how can I make this different? So I tried very hard. I want you to go back with me to September 18th, 1993, in the Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome in Minneapolis, Minnesota. K-State versus University of Minnesota. Sean Snyder found me a seat on the plane with the team, so I was privileged to watch what turned out to be a wonderfully exciting football game. It started out pretty dull with K-State taking a 17-0 lead. But in the fourth quarter, things became rather hectic when K-State scored a touchdown and went ahead 25-24 with about 3 minutes to play. Well, Minnesota then drove to the 4-yard line with a first down, and 3 tries, they're still at the 2-yard line with 52 seconds to play. An incomplete pass ended the game, and K-State won 30-25. I describe this as a defining moment in the history of K-State football. I've looked back on that and I thought, what on earth would our season have been like that year? That was our Copper Bowl season. Had Minnesota scored that touchdown. So that defensive stand at that point, and there were many other wonderfully exciting plays. Freshman Kevin Lockett had his outbreak game at that time. Chad May was spectacular as a passer. Thomas Randolph had a couple of pass interceptions. I bet those are all names you remember well as I do. But as I think about that and think of the defining moments, there are so many of them in K-State football history, and I wanted to share that one with you. I'm privileged today to introduce the 57th greatest coach in all of college football history. Pappy Waldorf was the 55th best. Where on earth did that information come from? There is a website called Sports on Earth, promising to name the top 100 football coaches of all time. Today, I think, is the day that this author is supposed to post the top 25. Well, when I got back to my office yesterday after learning about this from Andrew Hamer over the Ahern office, I got on the internet and looked up Sports on Earth, and there, sure enough, was posted numbers 75 through 51. And I scrolled down, and here's what it said. The September 4th, 1999 issue of Sports Illustrated ran a feature about Kansas State football under the headline, Futility U. This was the reality Bill Snyder, a Hayden Fry assistant at Iowa, faced when he decided to take on the challenge of coaching one of the most historically inept programs in football history. Kansas State had never finished ranked in the AP poll, played in one bowl game, lost to Wisconsin in 1986, and hadn't lost fewer than 5 games in a season since 1954. It's a difficult job without a natural recruiting base, and until Snyder arrived, no track record of success. Snyder went 7-4 in his 3rd year, then had 8 straight seasons of 3 or fewer losses from 1993 to 2000. So you can see why I picked that Minnesota game as a defining moment. He had 10 top 25 finishes in 11 years, 6 top 10 teams, and 11 won squads that fell just short of championships in 1997 and 99. He finally got over the hump to win a Big 12 title in 2003, thanks to an upset win over Oklahoma that I'm sure you all remember. He retired in 2005, only to return in 2009 after a lackluster season, 3-year tenure of Ron Prince. Even in his 70s, Snyder went 11-2 with a Big 12 title in 2012, coaching Heisman Trophy finalist Colin Klein. Snyder has coached some highly efficient offenses with players like Klein, Darren Sproles, Michael Bishop, and you heard me throw in one Kevin Lockett in my earlier story. And throughout his tenure, he's found a way to create a junior college pipeline better than any other coach. And at 76 years of age, he is still going strong. Well, please, when you get back to your office, check out Matt Brown, Sports on Earth, and see who the number one is. My number one for all time is sitting right here today, Coach Bill Snyder.
It's obvious Clyde has way too much time on his But it wouldn't be the same without having Clyde here. I assure you that. You're a friend. Not a whole lot to say. Keep you on track here, and I'll make sure we'll stop at 1 o'clock or whenever the time is up. And I'll try to give you an opportunity to ask questions. Most of them I'll probably avoid. It's been a somewhat different summer. Just a lot of different things that have taken place. The the catbacker functions, which are ongoing virtually throughout the summer. I think I did 12 of those. Just finished one last night up in, or the last one I think last night up in Topeka. We had a couple of weddings in the family. Sean's oldest son, Tate, got married in Kansas City. Tate was in our program for a while. And then our daughter Shannon, who works with Mike down at the bank, got married. That was into a wonderful son-in-law now. So I'm very, very proud of. It's the most significant thing. All of you can address this. From a father's standpoint, is the significant other of your daughter. And we have 3 daughters. They're all married now, and we've been blessed to have wonderful son-in-laws. And I'm proud of each and every one of them. Aside from the football stuff, having our players on campus all summer, I did have an opportunity. I took a trip out to California with General Myers, and Dick and I have been good friends for a long period of time. But I learned even more about him at that time, and I was told Dennis a long time ago how pleased I was with him that the group chose Dick to be the interim president. And during that period of time, and he and I were together out in California, I've tried to convince him to make that a permanent position. And it's an amazing thing, like you said, I've known Dick and been a good friend of his for a long time. He's been a good friend of mine. And yet there were so many things that I didn't realize about him. He was a bright individual, in areas, outside of what we anticipate. Certainly he knows about, all of the military and, all those things that take place, and certainly, the political arena as it relates to that, but so many other arenas, that he has a wealth of knowledge of, and to hear what he has done since he's been on our campus, I think is really extremely interesting and impressive to me that he, truly did hit the ground running and has been actively involved in so many different things. I'm awful proud of him for that. I did, a week ago or so, I went to that thing they have every year, the Media Day down in Dallas, Texas. That's an interesting thing. They've had the media from all over congregates. All the coaches are there. You have, there are probably 150 people that either are print or radio, TV, media. And they, each one of them probably the same 5 questions for each one. I was there for 6 consecutive hours, just one right after the other, just absolutely nonsense. We used to have, they used to come to us, and we could address them all at the same time, and it was over, done with, and it took an hour's period of time. That's no longer that way. But I did take our captains, our 4 captains to Dallas, and this has been ongoing for a number of years. And every sports writer that I visited with, if he or she had already visited with any of our captains, the same response, and it all centered around, as nice and polite young people as we have attend this session that relates to players. So I'm truly proud of the young people in our program because they do present themselves very well. That same day we went to Bristol, Connecticut, and did the ESPN. They do the same thing, and that, I don't know if you've ever been on the ESPN campus or not. I've been there, whatever it is, we've been going for about 4 years or so. A very impressive campus and very expansive. This is big as Kansas State's campus for the most part. And however, when you go, they take you from one show to the next. Whether it happens to be the TV show or happens to be somebody that does tweets or whatever it is that they do, some type of media outlet that they have. But the camp is pretty expansive, and every year it happens the same way. They divide you up, and you have a host, and so they take you to the first show, and you do the show with whoever it happens to be, John Brown or any of those people, and then they escort you walking probably I don't know, 3/4 of a mile to the other side of the campus, and you go in and do a show there, and then walk another 3/4 of a mile back, and next door to where you did the first one is where you did the third one, and it's back and forth like that. And I would suggest that I put in probably 6.5 miles during the day. So that part of it was hectic. Now, that coupled with being with the players during the course of the summer, and the players during the course of the summer, you've probably heard me say this, or at least you've heard me talk about, what their schedule is like during the course of the season or the school year, and it's really not any different during the course of the summer. And our players all take classes. All of them carry normally 2 classes, approximately 6 hours during the course of the summer, some a few more. The schedule as it relates to the football aspect of it, they're up early in the morning, normally somewhere 5:30, have lifting at weightlifting, which is probably about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on the day, and they do that 4 days a week. They have a conditioning, agility workout, also about the same length of time, 4 times a week, and then they have a session in which they do football drills, just like a football practice, and they do that 4 times a week as well. It lasts about the same amount of time. The coaches cannot be involved in that aspect of it, so consequently the players have to conduct it. We give them some guidance initially, and they have to conduct the practices during the summer. And I'm really proud of our leadership because they do a nice job of coordinating the practices, and they're not any different than the way we would practice in the fall, except that coaches are not there. The players are off right now. I say they're off. Tuesday was our last workout. We'll not begin the fall workouts until Wednesday of this coming week. Actually, we'll meet then, and the first workout will be on Thursday of next week, and we'll start that period of time where we have 5 days of orientation, which is from a practice standpoint, just 1 practice a day, but they meet all day and all night. And then after 5 days, and we alternate 1 day of practice, then the next day we have 2, and then 1. So on alternate days, we have either 1 or 2 practices up until the beginning of school, and then we get back on that particular schedule. our players have, during the course of the summer, they've also, I mean, as hard as they work and as much time and effort that they put into it, we also do some team bonding programs. This summer, they always go to the pool. We take them to the swimming pool and they have fun running or swim relay races. You'd be surprised how many youngsters we have that are afraid of the water, but they still have a good time. And also some of them that are absolutely crazy off of a 3-meter board, and I cringe every time I see one going up there. And it was kind of a test. They didn't really realize that, but we had a video game tournament. They picked out a video game that they liked the best, a competitive one, a sports video game, and the head bracket tournament. So it went all the way through the course of the summer, and then we had the championship, and we did that in one of our team meeting rooms, and it was with a large screen. So everybody came and everybody got to watch. Dominic Heath, who's one of our wide receivers, that tall, he won. And the test was for me to find out who is it that spends more time than they should on video. And I found out that we had that conversation. I took him just last week to over to Junction City. They have a paintball set up over there that they've had for a little while. And our players, we divided up in teams, and they have 3 different areas where they can do the paintball stuff. And they really had a good time and enjoyed that a great deal. So we do a lot of those things, and it is quite team building to a fair degree. I'll open this up to questions, but before I do, what comes to mind that I always share something about some of these things that are really significant to me, that aside from football itself. And you've heard me talk about probably all of them for the most part. I was thinking along the lines of the mentoring program, the Kansas Mentors Initiative that when Kathleen was in office, that she and I initiated throughout the state of Kansas. And I've said, anywhere and everywhere that I've gone that, if you have never invested yourself in mentoring with youth, particularly K through 12, you may have missed maybe the most engaging, significant, and rewarding thing that you could do in your life. And if you ever had an interest in that, I would urge you to go. You can go online, Kansas Mentors, read about it. If you have an interest, you could. They'll tell you exactly how to go about it. The other aspect, and I always say this because our state legislature is having some difficulty finding funds to do a lot of different things, and Kansas Mentors is one of them that they're having some difficulty with. And I'm not asking for funds, but I am saying, when you have the opportunity to nudge, Tom or some of the other people that have an impact on the state legislature, you might do so, and mention that mentoring is really significant. And the state of Kansas, just like it is anywhere else in the world, these wonderful young people over here probably, they certainly understand that. There is an interesting thing that a foundation that just started. You haven't heard about this and wouldn't be aware of it, but there is a foundation called the Jason Foundation, and I became on the board of directors, board of trustees with Kansas Mentors now, and certainly also with the Jason Foundation. Jason Foundation has created the name. The foundation is created by the father. The name is the first name of the young man who committed suicide in his youth. And the interesting statistics, and I've probably thrown some of these out to you before, is the immense rise in youth suicide throughout our nation. And it is at a critical stage. Over the past couple of decades, the suicide rate for youth under the age of 24 has risen approximately 5,000%. There are statistics out right now. How accurate and how they assessed it, I don't know, but indicates that 1 out of every 8 young person in that age group, has given thought to suicide. 1 out of 12 has actually attempted such. So it is more critical than a lot of people want to think. I think that statistic and mentoring kind of go hand in hand. And the thing about the Jason Foundation, they will come into your community free of charge. They'll come into your community and present ways in which a community might try to address that particular issue of youth suicide and what a community might do about it. So it's an interesting thing and a significant thing as well. Also, when Kathleen was in office, we started the Kansas Leadership Center down in Wichita, Kansas, and you've heard me talk about that. I'm still on the board of trustees with that. And I would, Ed O'Malley, most of you know the name, and Ed was in the state legislature, really a good young guy, good worker, and has really brought that group together. And they go throughout our state and try to assist with community leadership, try to promote community leadership in the right way. They will send people into the community, once again, doesn't cost anything, to try to help, promote and give some guidance and direction to community leadership. And, I would encourage anybody to, that's involved to, consider taking advantage of that. The other thing that you've heard me talk about, another, on too many boards, but the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame. And you've heard me, I know I've addressed that as well. And the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame is, they just struggle. It's kind of almost a day-by-day operation. I don't think it's going to close. But when I came here a long time ago, it was in Abilene, Kansas. And they were unable. The reason they moved from Abilene to Newton, Kansas was that they ran out of funds to support the rent where they were. They went to Newton, Kansas. Now that has, same thing happened there. They're at the at Bill Koch's Coke House, or not Coke House, what do you call that, Boat House down in Wichita, Kansas. Really a nice facility, and they've had their offices there. Now since the facility in Newton has closed, they've had to move the museum down there. And the Sports Hall of Fame really does a nice job throughout the state of Kansas. They too will send people into your community to address a variety of different things as it is relative to sport in the state of Kansas. High school athletics, college athletics, etc. Women's athletics. They just brought somebody into Manhattan earlier this summer and had a session on athletic events and opportunities for young ladies in the community. So I mean that's a resource, I think, for virtually any community, and certainly for this one as well. So maybe the last couple very quickly. The Leadership Studies College. I just again an update. These young people here have a little awareness of that as well. But normally when I've spoken about the leadership, actually it's just a Leadership Studies program, and our Leadership Studies program has grown immensely, and consequently has been now determined a college. It's our 10th college at Kansas State University. It is really a wonderful program, a lot of amazing people in the program. We, in the Leadership Studies program, we have the largest enrollment of any area on our college, any major in our college. And it's a minor, and we've tried to keep it as a minor, so that, I don't know what you do with a leadership major, but to have a minor regardless of what college you happen to be a member of, whether you're going into business or architecture, agriculture, whatever, excuse my voice. But, leadership obviously is extremely valuable in any source, any reference that you have in your life. I mean, every young person going through our university at some point in their lives will be involved leadership role, and this really is a great resource for them. And then the last one is the Terry Johnson Cancer Research Center, and on board with that as well. And sometimes that kind of goes by the wayside a little bit and becomes a little bit of an unknown entity. So much dialogue about other areas of our campus, all of them important. But there is a lot of tremendous research. We all have an interest in that. Every one of us, our lives, all of us is touched by this thing we call cancer in a variety of different ways. And they are really doing a tremendous job of being able to put research together and on our campus, that is instrumental in a variety of different areas as it relates to cancer. Now, those are the things I really want to talk about. Now, I've probably got a couple of minutes left or whatever it is, so, if you have any questions you'd like to ask as it relates to our football program, I truly will be forthright and try to answer them the best I possibly can. Yes, ma'am.
What's going on in the Big 12 that's interesting for all of us?
I'm not altogether certain. If it alludes to the expansion, and I do get that's one of those 5 questions in Dallas, but I answered the question 15 years ago, and my answer has not changed. And I think the way we started the conference was ideal. 12-team conference, 2 16 divisions, a championship game. That's ideal. Now, that, in my way of thinking, it was ideal and is ideal for Kansas State University and some other universities as well. For everybody, maybe not the case. But, I believe very strongly in that. The conference, I'll tell you an interesting story. We went to, whatever it was, May, I think, went out to Arizona, Scottsdale, Phoenix, and for conference meetings that we have every single year. And so at one of the meetings that the athletic directors and all of the coaches are involved in, Bob Bowlesby got up and introduced a gentleman who was from a research corporation, and they had been addressed by the conference to create research in regards to what would be the best format for the Big 12 conference as it related to expansion, et cetera, et cetera. And so the guy got up and he went through numbers for about a half hour, and it's 50% this, 30% this, 80% this, et cetera, just a bunch of numbers. But at the end of it, he said, and what this really proves, and he showed it up on the board, is that the Big 12 conference is best served to have 12 teams, 2 16 conferences, and a championship game. And afterward, I pulled Bob Bowlesby aside and I said, Bob, I would have done that for half the price. And as I say, it goes back to Kansas State University. We've got a bunch of divisional championship trophies in our trophy case up there that wouldn't be there, under a different format and all likelihood. But it's anyway. That's a long answer to a short question. Yes, sir.
My son-in-law is from Minnesota, and he's mystified how we were able to get Jerry Kill down here. What will be Coach Kill's role?
Well, Jerry had an illness that precludes him, ever coaching again. And Jerry's a good guy, and I've known him. He was down at a couple of colleges here in Kansas, and a long time ago he used to come up and visit and inquire about things, and so I got to know him. And he's, basically, we had a young man by the name of Clint Dowdle, who was in our program. He left to go in a kind of a different career field, and Jerry's going to take his place. And, he just kind of, he's there as a kind of a go-between between our program and the athletic department in general. And, he'll do anything and does anything and everything, whatever it is we'd ask of him. Good guy, I've enjoyed him a great deal. And, he's moved here, he's here full-time now. And so, if we have some issues, and he's somebody that we can go to and he can kind of carry the message. And so they, whoever's going to make the decisions on whatever it is, they get to hear it from two football people rather than just me. Okay. Yes, sir.
Well, I do not have a question. I just want to say it's a great honor listening to you talk. I've been in leadership for like 8 years, and I've read a lot about you from Nigeria and how you use American people, how your success story has become leader inspiration for many people. I've had conversations with Mike Finnegan and Marshall, and we talk about working closely with you as one of the greatest things that has happened to them. And so I feel listening to your story and your passion about mentoring, because mentoring is also a key thing that all of us here do so well. It's a big inspiration listening to you closely, not reading about you from Nigeria, about what you did in America, but then listening about your experience in coaching is a big privilege. Thank you for being an inspiration to the world. Thank you.
You're very kind.
What a great finish to a wonderful program. Thank you for sharing those comments.